Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to be here to introduce you all to our newest programmable automation controller called SoftPAC. Before I get started, just a quick housekeeping note. To the right of your screen, you should be able to see a control panel. In this panel, there's a small box where you can type in a question. So if you have any questions during the presentation or comments, go ahead and type them in there, and I promise we'll get to as many as possible. I'll also provide my email address in a couple of places, so feel free to drop me an email if you think of something later. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Mary St. John. I'm the Director of Training here at Opto 22. And before my new gig in training, I spent about a decade in the firmware development team for mostly doing the control engine that runs on our standard hardware packs, which is also at the heart of SoftPAC. So I could tell you more than you ever wanted to know about how the watch works, as they say, but in the interest of time, I'm going to hit the highlights and then I'm going to show you a few demos about my favorite parts. Also, just quickly before I go over the agenda, I wanted to make a little side note about how I'm especially excited that we're releasing SoftPAC given our long history of PC-based control, which dates back to the 80s when PCs themselves were, of course, brand new. And we developed multipluxed I/O systems like Optomux and Paymux, which I know some of you might even still be using, which were designed specifically for those new, at the time, computers. And as you know, today's PCs have evolved immensely. And with so many application and connectivity options, we know more and more people are making use of these cloud-based applications, and we're especially excited to add SoftPAC as an option, another choice in the PAC product line. It's kind of like we've come full circle back to our roots in PC-based control. Okay, so here's the lineup for today. We're going to first tell you about some features and advantages to having this additional choice in the PAC product line. Then we'll get into where and when you might choose PC-based control and highlight some of the features that could help make your life easier. Then, and this is my favorite part, we have 3 demos to show you. In the first, we're going to show you, so you don't have to just take my word for it, some speed increases that SoftPAC can give you. Then we'll expand on that with not just one faster running chart, but 64 of them. Finally, in our third demo, we'll show you how to leverage PC-based control to your full advantage. And of course, at the end, we'll take questions and comments if you'd like. Okay, so first of all, what is it? SoftPAC stands for Software-Based Programmable Automation Controller. It's a pack that runs on your Windows PC and communicates to all your Ethernet-based I/O just like our hardware-based packs. And also like our hardware-based packs, you can program SoftPAC using pack control with either your simple flowcharts or as many sophisticated OptoScript blocks as you like. Of course, I tend to like the OptoScript blocks, but it's your choice. Now, why might you choose SoftPAC over another pack or something else? Well, perhaps you have an application that's using large, or I should say is collecting large amounts of data that you want to archive on your PC or even on your local network or possibly into the cloud. Or perhaps you have a situation where you're doing some complex math that could take a while, or computational analysis, or even some kind of, say, string handling. Or it could be as simple as perhaps you're an OEM building a machine that already has a PC in it, maybe one that's running PAC project for you. If you're trying to keep costs down, you might consider purchasing SoftPAC, which is now, by the way, our least expensive pack in the family, rather than a SnapPAC S-Series or R-Series controller to keep your total cost down. Also, and this was something that came up in some of the discussions on LinkedIn, someone mentioned that you could use SoftPAC to reduce the load on your existing controllers by spreading it out It could also act as a data aggregator, where the SoftPAC logic would keep tabs on, say, other processes running on your other packs and brains, perhaps calculating averages to be presented in pack display or some other method. And my favorite part is, if you decide to change your mind later on how you want to distribute your logic, you can take that strategy that you developed for SoftPAC and just run it on a different pack, another hardware-based pack. And we're going to do this during the demo, so you'll see that I'm not just making this up. Okay, so what works with SoftPAC? In terms of I/O compatibility, you can talk to any of our Ethernet-based I/O units as noted in this slide. Of course, you can also talk to other packs, whether it's a SoftPAC or an S-series, that's fine as well. SoftPAC does not currently have support for serial brains. Snap I/O modules, including serial modules, are supported as well. Also, like our hardware packs, we have what we could call an LED equivalent, perhaps a soft LED, if you will. And this indicates whether or not SoftPAC is off, kind of like you have your hardware pack powered off and the LED is not lit, it's dark. That would be the equivalent of this gray icon. Or if it's on, but there's no strategy in it yet, you'll see this amber or yellow icon. And if you have a strategy in there loaded and also running, you'll see green, just like you would on your hardware paste pack. That stat light you might be familiar with will go green when the strategy is running. Okay, so very similar to your hardware-based packs. Now, how do I actually use this? SoftPAC actually consists of two pieces. There's what we call the monitor, which is pictured here on the left. Now keep in mind, this is still beta in development. I know they're putting some final touches on it, so this might look a little different when it gets released. But what this SoftPAC monitor allows you to do is start and stop SoftPAC or change how SoftPAC is run. You could think of it kind of as an on-off switch for your hardware controller. That's the equivalent. And the second piece is this executable. That's where the control engine is, SoftPAC itself, where I spent many, many hours writing code. Anyway, so just to note, the monitor, if you click on this hide dialog, it doesn't actually minimize it like some other things. It actually hides it. So no icon appears on the taskbar. If you want to show it again, you can just right-click on the icon in the system tray. Notice the About, this is the About box for the monitor, and it's showing you two versions. It's showing you the monitor version here, which is 1.0 because this is the first time we're releasing it, and then the control engine firmware, the SoftPAC, which is 9.3. As some of you may know, we are on 9.2 for the hardware-based firmware currently. Okay, so, one last thing before I forget. You get the ability to run SoftPAC as a Windows service. That means that when the PC starts, so does SoftPAC, and no login is required, so that's pretty cool. Okay, let's go ahead and start with a demo. Before I do that, some folks were probably curious about what I'm running. I'm running my SoftPAC on the same PC as the PowerPoints and everything, and you can see here the kind of machine I'm running. This first demonstration is to show you what kind of performance increase you can expect to see. It's very simple logic. All I'm going to do is just have the pack increment a variable as fast as possible and see how high we counted in 3 seconds. I'm sorry, we're going to count as many times as possible in the 3 seconds. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over here. So you can see I have my two control engines. The increment block here is just incrementing a variable called all chart total. So we're going to watch that count up. So let's go ahead and load this onto my R1 here. This is sort of the before picture, if you will. Let me clear that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this from scratch. Now, this is the count that we're going to be incrementing as many times as possible in 3 seconds. So let's go ahead and run. And there it goes counting. And on my R1, and just so you believe me that this is an R1, I'm going to inspect it. It's running modern firmware. And you can see also how much volatile RAM is free here. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Okay, so we did about almost 26,000 counts in those 3 seconds. So I'm going to make a little note here. 25K approximately. Okay, so now let's go ahead and switch to my SoftPAC. It's as easy as that. Set it active. So let's go ahead and download that. We get a power up clear message just like on a hardware-based pack. Okay, so now we're going to watch this same variable and see how many times we can increment it in 3 seconds. Oh, look how fast that is. Okay, so we got up to almost 600,000 compared to our 25K. So that's pretty cool that we're showing you there the potential performance increase. Okay, so let me go ahead and inspect it so you can see that I'm running SoftPAC. This version is actually a couple weeks old. I don't have the latest. And you see my loopback IP address. And this is a whole lot more memory, volatile memory, than we saw on the R1. So that's nice to have that option for you. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the slides. Okay, as I alluded to, some of the differences. Now, I'd like to point out that Form 2020, easy to remember, has one of these handy-dandy comparison charts that I really like. And it shows you some of those numbers about RAM. There's also this other Form 1646, which has a nice graphic, which gets in a little more detail on exactly how the RAM and non-volatile, etc., is used, or is divvied up between the various packs. Okay, and Form 2020 is already available on opto22.com. Let's see. So we're going to show you this number next, circled in red. The number of charts that can be running on a SoftPAC is much more than the others. Notice also in the SoftPAC column, you're going to see some little footnotes. That's because quite a few of the things that are documented in this chart are going to vary depending on the particular Windows PC you're using. Also, for those of you who use flash memory, for example, if you have persistent variables, the way that is implemented on your SoftPAC is as a file. So your persistent variables will persist as well on SoftPAC, and you won't even know the difference, or it'll work just the same as it would on a hardware-based pack. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the second demo. This is just going to expand on the same concept in the first demo, but rather than having just the power up increment that one variable as many times as possible, each of that same logic is going to run on many more charts. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over here. So I'm going to just change this connection line. Let's go back to config mode first. I'm going to switch back to my R1. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're just going to run the same logic that's looping and incrementing on a whole bunch of charts that I've created here. So let's go ahead and download. And now I'm going to be looking at this numeric table. So each element in this table corresponds to one of those charts that's going to be incrementing independently. Okay, so let's go ahead and run. And you see we're going to count all these different charts. And in 3 seconds, we got up to just about 1,300 on the R1. Okay, so now let's go ahead and switch over. And that was, this time we had about 1,300. Note to self. So I'm going to switch back to SoftPAC. Hang on a second. Okay, now we're going to keep our eye on this list of numbers, this table, and I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And now you notice it's counting faster. We got over 100,000. Also, we're counting not just on those 16 charts, but a whole lot more. We have 63 actually, and then the 64th would be the power up. And then some of you may know if you double click on the charts folder, you can see all of them running. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Of course, not everyone is going to have the need to run this many charts. And there are always many ways you can program your particular project. But we know many of our customers like to use a chart to logically divide parts of their system. For example, Ben in his hospital had a chart per floor. So now with this new option, this new choice, he could have a much taller hospital. And as you may recall, you can run up to 16 charts on the R series, 32 on the S series PAC hardware-based controllers, and now you have 64 on SoftPAC. So again, more choices. Also wanted to mention, a lot of people were asking about if there was going to be a difference in the speed on I/O access. But because we're running under Windows and we're limited to their Windows TCP/IP stack, and again, this might be a little more than you wanted to know in terms of detail, but on the hardware-based packs, we have a RTOS, which is a real-time operating system, and there's the TCP/IP stack that we had on there, which we have the source code for and control over, was optimized in particular for that RTOS. So if you're wondering about the differences between the I/O access, you're not going to see that big of a difference. Yeah, notice the green I mentioned before down here. So anyway, running and happy. Okay, so let's switch back to my slides here. So we saw all those 64 beautiful charts. A few more advantages. So besides the extra speed and performance due to all that extra memory we have available on the PC and the additional file space we mentioned, what else is there? Wait, there's more. You also get sending emails is a bit easier because the Windows security certificates are taken care of for you. That saves a couple steps over a hardware-based pack. Also, as we mentioned earlier, you can run as a service. So it'll start when the PC starts up. No one has to log in. But my favorite value add, which we're going to cover here in the third demo, is kind of a combination between two things. First, how easy it is to log data with our file commands. For example, with a string like this to initialize where you're going to put your file. That easy file logging combined with the fact that your PC can run some cool applications on it, like the cloud storage software Dropbox, which I don't know if any of you noticed, but that was popping up earlier, or other apps like Box.net and Google Drive, also known as Google Docs. So to give you a feel, for those of you who might not be familiar with Dropbox, I'll just give you an example of one way we use it here. So it's a very popular cloud-based application that we call Dropbox. It's helpful for sharing files and collaborating. the way it works is you can drop a file into the Dropbox rather than, say, emailing it as an attachment, which you end up getting multiple versions floating around in different people's inboxes. But with Dropbox, the files are automatically synced. So everyone has the latest automatically. And the login and security is all handled by this app. For example, when I was working on these PowerPoint slides themselves, I had a couple of my teammates look at them and make some changes and some comments. But I never had to email the file. I just told my collaborators where in Dropbox to find it. So in this third example, we're going to take care of that. We're going to take advantage of that easy-to-use form, the cloud-based app, plus writing to a file. So let's go ahead and check it out. But to give you an idea, try to imagine you're going to have instant access to your data on all of your devices. That's what we're going for here. Okay, let's go ahead and show you. All you have to do, I'm going to switch back to my R1. And so for the third demo here, what we're going to do is, it's just a continuation of the first demo. So we have a bunch of data now that we're collecting. Now you'd probably be counting widgets or something rather than just a count, something more informative. But what I'm going to do is, you can see in this Opto script box, I'm creating a file. And if I'm running on the R1, I'm checking the engine type here. On the R1, I'm just going to call it tempdata.txt in the root to keep it simple. Otherwise, I'm going to put it in this particular Dropbox folder on my C drive. You see, I just spell out the path like normal, and it's going to go there. So let's go ahead and run this. It's going to take my data that we saw in that table before, convert it to a string, and then write it to that file that I showed you. Okay, so I'm going to download this. Now I'm going to run it on my R1. See, we're counting up again here. And we're done counting, and my file got written because I see that we're done with the power up chart. So now I like to use for an FTP client to look at what that file on my R1. Firefox has a nice built-in FTP client. So all I have to do here on the address line is type FTP, and then that's the IP address of my R1. So if I click refresh, there's that data that we just wrote as a file, and I can click on that. And it shows me how many counts I got per chart and the total. So that's pretty slick, especially if you have an R1 out in the middle of nowhere and you want to just keep track of a little bit of data. Maybe you don't always have connectivity to that remote R1. So that's that. Now we're going to switch over and take it to the next level. Hang on a second. Okay, so download. So let me bring back my little watch window here. I'm going to go ahead and click run. We're running on SoftPAC now. Notice my icon turned from amber to green. We got a whole lot. And what just happened in the background is that same data got written to my local drive, but because that drive was mapped to this handy-dandy Dropbox cloud application, you see that here in the cloud, this is on a website, their website, I have this data that got instantly synced to the cloud. And it's the data for my SoftPAC. So we can compare now to what we got on the R1. So, okay, perhaps these are going to be values for how many widgets you had, but the really cool thing here is that my boss, who happens to have this app on every single device known to man that he owns, he instantly got this loaded into the cloud for him, but also synced to all of his gadgets. And he's got an iPad, an iPhone, I'm not even sure what all else, probably a Kindle. So any app that supports Dropbox is going to instantly have this loaded onto it, even if he's flying on it. He just got back from a flight. So anyway, I'm sure if I hit unmute right now, I hear lots of oohs and ahs. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back to our slides. So pricing. This will be available as part of 9.3 coming very soon. And if you buy PAC Project Professional, it's included with it. Or if you want to buy an individual seat, it's $3.99 per seat. Very similar to what we do with Opto Data Link pricing. And we have that data sheet that I mentioned earlier, 2020 already on our website. There's also this cool landing page which has a bunch of information on here and a link to Ben's very nice video. That's about all I have. Do we have questions? I have Benson here helping me out.
Yes, this is Benson here. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time today and Mary's presentation and demonstration of SoftPAC. We do have a couple questions that came in today. Can SoftPAC send and receive values to a DLL file? And the way that we communicate with other applications is through our Opto MMP messaging toolkit. This is a library of routines, .NET managed code that allows you to create communications or applications that communicate among all the various packs that we offer, whether it's a SnapPAC R rack-mounted pack or an S-series standalone pack, or even SoftPAC. So they're all accessed the same way. We also anticipate forthcoming a SnapPAC messaging toolkit. Now the difference is just that this would communicate directly to tags within your strategy as opposed to the memory map, which is, as you know and Mary demonstrated, is supported under SoftPAC. Another question coming in, will there be support for serial brains in the future? At this point, there's nothing on our roadmap for serial brains, and the primary reason for that is well, there's several, but the ones that, the most important considerations were, it's more and more difficult today to purchase a PC with a serial port on it, and that's of course RS-232. Then secondarily to that, if you're using a serial card in your PC, the method of access to that serial port varies, and it also goes through Microsoft serial tools, which are certainly more difficult to test. So at this point, we don't have serial support for our brains on the roadmap.
So somebody else was asking about PAC display working on the same version SoftPAC hardware at the same time. Yes, absolutely. So that's when I was talking earlier about saving money. You know, a lot of people are already have a PC in their system that might be running PAC display. So certainly, and we've done this a number of times, you want to have PAC display running on the same PC as your SoftPAC. That's fine. You could have SoftPAC running on a different PC. More choices, however you want to, whatever combination you can come up with. Is fine.
Yeah, it's important to remember that SoftPAC is actually the version of the kernel that, as Mary indicated earlier, she was partly responsible for developing years and years ago. So it works the same as our hardware packs, except of course running on a PC, with those noted exceptions about access to serial frames and so on. So for sure, all of our other software, Opto Data Link, Opto OPC Server, PAC Display, PAC Terminal, PAC Manager, all of those products work with SoftPAC in the same manner that they work with our hardware controllers. There's another question here that's a good question. Will there be any type of SoftPAC demo version to download and try? Yes, we anticipate having well, actually we have one today that is a simulator that you can download that is somewhat similar to SoftPAC. It's called a PAC Sim. And it's been available on our website for a number of years, and it allows you to evaluate PAC Project Basic. And there's a simulated controller there, which is again very similar to SoftPAC, but the feature set is much different, and it only runs for several hours before it shuts itself down. But it also allows you to evaluate pack control, pack display, our OPC server, and so on, so that you get a feel for how to work with our controllers without necessarily having any hardware. So I would recommend looking at Pack Project Demo on our website. Just do a search for Pack Project Demo. And in that single download, you'll get a full copy of Pack Project Basic, along with Pack Simulator, which we call Pack Sim, and of course the demonstration files that go along with it, which include a brewery application, moving a ship through some water, and a couple of other nice little demos, all built in. Is there any way to launch an external process? Again, I think that's another question that just came in, a great question as well. Again, any way to start or stop external processes would be likely done through our messaging toolkits. Again, those are going to be .NET managed code that you develop in anything from C to Visual Basic to Visual C++, whatever your choice of environment is. That would be the best method to start and stop external processes.
Or that's already built into Pack Display as well. A lot of people start and stop processes or launch other applications from Pack Display, so lots of choices for how to do that.
I think we've gotten through all the questions, Mary.
Okay, well, let me show you my email address here again in case you think of anything later. We are going to have a recording, as I mentioned, available soon. So thanks once again for spending your time with us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
One last thing, we've recorded this webinar, and we will be providing a link to this recording in a future Opto news, or take a look at our website, and we'd be happy to get you a link to that recording, so if you'd like to review this information later. And don't forget to look at on our website, we have off of our homepage information about SoftPAC, a landing page with links, videos, and so on that Mary did mention earlier. Thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to learn more about SoftPAC and other products from Opto 22. We hope you have a terrific day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.